The gentleman from Alabama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Chairman Bernanke. When historians look back at the financial crisis and the ensuing economic upheaval of the last half of the first decade of the 21st century, what will be the storyline? I submit it will be that while the public was focused on the tax rebate program, then on the $700 billion TARP, and finally on the $100 trillion economic stimulus package, a much larger drama was unfolding below the surface. While the public was distracted and focused on these high-profile activities and events, other programs and activities some 5 times larger than those debated and discussed in open forums were being enacted by a select few of unelected federal regulators who were making commitments of trillions of dollars backed by taxpayer guarantees and loans. Perhaps much like the analogy of an iceberg, only the tip of which is visible, the public and we as elected representatives are left merely to speculate as to the exact nature and composition of these complex financial transactions, which have been made and entered into out of public view. Using an obscure and seldom utilized provision of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the Federal Reserve, with Treasury's cooperation, has made unprecedented interventions into the financial markets. Not only has there been no disclosure or little oversight or accountability, but there's actually been an active resistance on the part of these agencies to explain their actions or disclose the terms. At this time, because we know almost nothing about these transactions, we can only guess as to their ultimate success or failure. In future years, I'm sure those that write of these days will be intrigued and captivated by the question, how could such an unprecedented action have occurred without the consent of the governed? In many of these transactions that have been undertaken so far, we have been told we could not be given the specifics or details or terms because it was proprietary information of the companies involved. We have been left to guess as to the terms, the conditions, the size in many cases, the results expected, the consequences, the criteria for eligibility, or even the identity of all the parties. What is unknown pales in comparison to what we know. Perhaps of all the troubling aspects of these, what I'll call iceberg transactions, I am most troubled by what appears above the surface to be a total lack of guiding principles in entering these agreements and arrangements. This perception is only heightened by a series of ad hoc decisions and seeming policy reversals, which gives an indication that there is in fact no detailed plan to navigate us through what we all agree are troubling times. Let me close by suggesting a missing but essential guiding principle. I believe in a democracy it should be a requirement in any agreement or transaction involving the government. The principle is simple. In the event that our governing officials come to the conclusion that a commitment of public funds is necessary, if a commitment of taxpayer funds or guarantees cannot be disclosed because of the circumstances involved, it cannot and should not be made. If a private party to a transaction not involving national security is unwilling to enter into an agreement open to public scrutiny and examination, the agreement should not be made. Thank you, Mr. Bernanke, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.